Let's take a look at lesson 13, which covers advanced chapters 1, 2, and 3, and the house exercise. Now, the most important thing about 3D modeling in AutoCAD is the use of the user coordinate system, or the UCS. That's what governs how you draw. Let me show you by using the house example. So this is the house example. It's all wireframe. And if I hold down Shift and press down on the wheel of the mouse, come on, there we go. I can orbit around. Now notice that my orbit, here's X and Y and Z. And X and Y will always correspond to the view cube top. No matter what that X and Y are doing, they're always going to look, they'll be the top view. So when I'm holding down Shift and pressing down on the wheel on the mouse and I orbit, notice that the view cube orbits identically. Okay, that's the first thing to keep in mind. Now, the second thing to keep in mind is just as when you're drafting by hand on a piece of paper, you always draw in X and Y. That's why this whole concept of the UCS is so important. I'll show you what I mean. So here's a 3D model. If we look at the layers, you'll see that it's all just on wireframe. We're going to create new layers down the road, but right now we're just going to look at the concept and the principles of the world coordinate system and the user coordinate system, okay? So if I, with my X and Y in this orientation, which is sort of, use a left-hand rule, make an L, this is your X and this is your Y. The Z is sticking out into space, but don't think about the Z really a lot. It gets too confusing. The right-hand rule, which is all flipped around and it's in the book, is even more confusing. Just focus on that L, X and Y. Just like if you're holding a piece of paper, no matter what the angle of that piece of paper is, you're still going to be drawing flat on that piece of paper. So what does that mean in AutoCAD? If I want to draw something flat, it's going to be on X and Y. So if I draw a rectangle using the rectangle command, it's going to be flat. It looks like a driveway for this house. If I click on the word top over here on the view cube, it's going to orient straight up and down. See X and Y? You don't see Z anymore unless I change my view from top to an isometric. But this view is still the top. Top and X and Y always correspond to each other. They don't necessarily correspond to the top or the floor of this house or the thing that you're drawing. Hopefully that makes sense. Here's what I mean by that. If I want to put a hatch in this space, I just go up to my draw, hatch, and let's pick ANSI 31. And this is architectural, so it's really big. Let's actually not pick ANSI 31. Click this down arrow and you'll see a series of hatches that start AR with a dash. That's short for architectural. So these AR hatch patterns are all already set to be sized to an architectural drawing at a 1/4 inch equals a foot. Okay, so here's that herringbone pattern. Looks kind of weird there, but if I look at it straight up and down, by just clicking on the word top, you can see it's straight up and down. Now, if I click on it, I can change the scale, say make it 4, make it a little bit, okay. So there's a nice driveway. So let's orbit this around a little bit. Now, if I wanted to put a hatch pattern on the front wall of this house, I could not do it because I can only draw in X and Y. So what I have to do is use the coordinate system that's here under coordinates to command all of these different functions are functions of the UCS command, which is short for User Coordinate System. There's a whole bunch of different ones. And if you type UCS, you'll see all these different choices under the UCS command. These can be really mind-boggling. So instead, let's focus on the ones that we can see on the panel. And the easiest one to work with when you first start out is 3-point. And you'll see it defines a new user coordinate system using 3 points. The 3 points specify the origin, a point along X, and a point along Y. So if I click 3, it's going to prompt me, specify the new origin point. So I'm going to say this corner. So you want to make sure that your snaps are on. One endpoint, maybe midpoint, don't need center and don't need quadrant. Okay, so I'm going to go there. I'm going to say something along positive X and something along positive Y. So now my XY is flat with this face. And if I hatch, come on. Oh, whoops. Doesn't like it because it was off the edge. So let's try that again. Draw, hatch, pick. It's like that. It hatches this wall around this door, but notice there's a little bit of a gap at the top. What's that about? Let's notice also, this is really important, the X and the Y at the corner always correspond to the top view. So notice that the view cube changed the word top to the front of the house. We look at this from the front, sometimes it flips over on its side, so use these little flippy arrows to rotate it. Okay, if I zoom in, notice that this hatch stopped at this yellow roof line. It didn't go all the way up to the top of the wall. Why? Because when it hatches, it's projecting straight across. I'll show you what that means in dramatic fashion. If I orbit around to the back of the house, and again, UCS, type 3, I'm going to pick this corner as my origin, something along X, something along Y. Now I want to hatch this wall, and it should be a solid wall. But when I hatch it, come on, notice it cuts a hole for the door, even though the door is way on the other side of the house. Why? Because when it hatches, it's looking straight on, and it sees that doorway in the background. Okay? So there's a couple things that you need to do to override that. I'm going to delete this. This is where the 3D face comes in. The easiest way to see the 3D face is to change your visual style to X-ray. Doesn't really change the image because it's all wireframe right now, but if I type 3DF, which is short for 3D face, it doesn't have a button. Let's take a look at what it means. 3DF. Hover. Creates a 3-sided or 4-sided surface in 3D space. So it's kind of a rectangle. It's a type of polyline. So I click 3D face and it says specify first point or invisible. So I'm going to pick this corner. I'm going to zoom in and pick the top of that wall. I'm going to pick over here. As soon as I pick 4 sides, it fills in that space with this rectangle polyline 3D face. The best analogy is if you're actually building a house, this is the plywood that you put on the wall before you put your finished material, your siding or your stucco. So now that this is here, if I go to hatch, instead of picking points, select a boundary object. So I click on select and I click the edge and see how the whole thing lights up? Hit enter, and the whole face that I wanted is now hatched. Now, if I want to do the same thing on this face, same exact operation. I start with 3D face. I pick 4 corners. It's getting a little confusing because there's so much going on. Like that, hit enter, hatch, select 3D face, hit enter. Oh, that didn't take, so let's try that again. Hatch, select object, so I'm going to select the edge, enter. Why is it not doing it? It's weird. Let's try one more time. Select. Okay. Select object, pick internal. Pick roof, let's go back to herringbone. And enter. I don't know why it's not doing that, but we're not going to worry about it right now. We'll look at that in a minute. The other thing about the 3D face that is really important is normally when you hatch, your mind interprets what you see as a pattern, but in reality, it's lines with holes in between that you can see through. So right now, you can see through this whole house. It's really confusing. If you change your visual style to hidden, that 3D face acts as a block, as a wall, as a sheet of plywood again. So let's try this again. So there's that. Let's do a hatch. Let's do parquet. Let's try 2. That's really strange. Oh, duh. You know why it won't hatch? Well, look where my UCS is. Look where my view cube is, top. My top is over on this back wall. I can't hatch on this surface because it doesn't exist for the computer. Before I can hatch, I can put a 3D face on any surface that I can use object snaps to, but in order to hatch this, I need to change my UCS using the 3-point. Watch this, it's so simple. There, there, there. Now if I do hatch, come on, select, there we go. See, there it is. Now, let's do a roof piece, and then we'll stop on this portion and we'll pick it up. No, we'll keep going. Okay, so to hatch this roof, same thing. I need to orient my UCS so that it lines up flat with this roof. So I'm going to go with a 3-point. I'm going to pick the midpoint of the roof, the yellow line. I'm going to pick something along X and something along Y. So now notice what happens to my UCS. The X and Y line up with this plane, and the view cube is changed. And erase this driveway just to make it a little easier to see. I'm going to put a 3D face. I'm going to go from the bottom corner of the roof overhang, roof overhang, roof overhang. Okay, so there's my 3D face, and because I have hidden turned on, see how it already is blocking everything behind it? So now if I go draw, hatch, select, pick, enter. So now that hatch pattern is at the proper angle, okay? But everything's getting a little convoluted and confusing because everything's on the same layer. So let's do a quick cleanup with layers. So everything right now is on wireframe. You don't want that. So we're going to create some new layers. I'm going to call wall wireframe. And remember, when you're creating layers, if you type in the comma, it goes to the next layer. So there's wall wireframe, wall, hatch, comma, wall, 3D face. Enter. Now I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to say roof, wireframe. I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to change the color of my roof wireframe. Because now if I create a new layer, it's going to pick up that yellow color. So I say roof, hatch, comma, roof, 3D face. Hit enter. New layer, I'm going to say chimney, wireframe. I'm going to change the color. I'm going to go with red. New, chimney, hatch, comma, chimney, 3D face. And just to help me separate my layers, my wall layers from 0 and the old wireframe, here's wall 3D face, wall hatch, wall wireframe. I'm selecting them all holding down Control. Once all three are selected, I can pick on that swatch and change the color, like so. So now if something shows up in white, I know it's wrong. So now I need to change my objects from the wireframe layer to one of these layers I just created. It's a little bit of an exercise, but it works out. It becomes really helpful in the long run. So I'm going to grab these roof pieces. And because I turned the roof wireframe layer off, I turned the light bulb off. When I change it by going to layer, pull this down, and I go roof wireframe, it's going to turn them off. It's going to say those are off. So I'm going to do the same thing with my chimney. I'm just going to put a boundary window around here, make sure I don't select the window, just the chimney. I'm going to change the chimney wireframe. Now I'm going to take these are all wall. You can add extra layers for the doors and windows if you want, but you don't really have to. So this is going to be wall wireframe. Okay. Now why did I do that? Here's why. If I go to my roof wireframe and I turn it back on, the only thing I see is my roof wireframe. Now I'm going to fix the property override because the color's different. So I'm going to say by layer. That's just a little bit of housekeeping. So now, if I switch to layer, roof hatch, keep current layer on. Let's see. Okay, so roof hatch. Let's start with my roof 3D face. Okay, I'm going to go change this to X-ray, and I'm just going to do this 4 times. I'm going to type 3DF for 3D face. I'm going to pick corner, 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 enter. Now, because it's on X-ray, you can see the result. If you're in 2D wireframe, it doesn't look like anything. I'm going to hit enter to repeat the last command. I'm going to pick this corner. Now, do this one. I'm going to do this one. Save. Change my layer from face to hatch. I'm going to draw hatch. And I'm going to select, this is roof shake. You can do roof, which is kind of a, so here's concrete, this is brick. You can do that for the chimney. But a good one is this, which is roof shake. It's a shake tile. So if I can either pick inside that space, hit enter. Boom, that's done. Now, let's hatch this surface. You have to type either UCS3 or click the 3 button. Now, I don't have anything along the Y, so I'm going to start at the middle for my origin. I'm going to go along X, And I'm going to go to the peak of this ridge for y. So now my surface is here. See how it's x and y? And see how my top view on my view cube has changed? I do hatch, pick, enter, orbit, come down so the whole thing is visible or else it won't be able to hatch. I'm going to do my 3-point. I'm going to go from the middle again, something along x and up to the ridge for y. Hatch, pick, enter, orbit one more time. Now, in reality, there's a problem with this surface. So I'm going for a moment to turn chimney wireframe back on because I don't want to hatch where this bottom rectangle is. So I'm going to go to roof wireframe and I'm going to polyline. No, I'm going to do a 3D face on the roof 3D face. So 3DF, I'm going to pick this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner. Just hit enter once. I'm going to turn that chimney wireframe off. Okay, so here I've got two 3D faces, one on top of the other. And what that allows me to do when I do my hatch is, as long as island detection is turned on, outer island detection is on, normal island detection. Go back to roof shake. Oh no, what happened? Right, not in the right UCS. So I need to go UCS 3-point, pick the bottom middle, something along X, up the top of the ridge. Now that my UCS, X and Y, are oriented with this surface, if I do a hatch, it's going to leave that piece unhatched, like so. If I then change from X-ray to hidden, my roof looks like so. Okay, so I'm going to change my layer. I'm actually going to go to wall wireframe. I'm going to turn on the wall elements, and I'm going to turn off the roof elements. So now I just have to look at the wall. You repeat this exercise over and over and over again. Use the UCS 3-point, pick a corner, something along X, something along Y. Change from wireframe to 3D face, type 3DF, pick one corner, second corner, third corner, fourth corner. Enter, enter to repeat that command. Do the same thing for the door. Now, if I change my layer again to wall hatch, and I'm going to change from roof to something different. I can go with herringbone. I can go with brick. Here we go, brownstone. Now, because this brownstone doesn't have that AR, it means that it's going to be tiny. So I'm going to change my scale to 48. Pick right there. So that's a very East Coast brick for that face. And notice how it hatched around the door. You got to do the same thing for the windows. You have to put a 3D face around each window and for the whole wall. You're going to do the same thing for this face. You're going to do the same thing for this face. Then you're going to go to the chimney. You're going to turn your chimney layers on. You're going to turn your wall layers off. You're going to get an error message. I'm going to go to chimney wireframe. Make that current. Turn off the wall. Turn off the roof. So here's your chimney. And you're going to hatch all four sides. Whoops, that was weird. All four sides and the top of the chimney. Now, if you just hatch the top, it's going to hatch over this spot where the chimney opening is going to be. So you're going to do 2 3D faces on the top. Now, when you do your hatch for these 4 surfaces of the chimney, don't hatch it from the bottom up or the brick won't line up. Instead, do this. So I'm going to do a 3D face. I'm going to pick this point as my origin. Something along X, I'm going to go down for Y. Here's Y. Go to hatch. I'm going to pick, here's a 8x16 brick, 8x16 with grout. Here's just standard brick. Okay, so I'll just put that there. It's too big because I didn't change the scale, so I'll go back to 1. Looks like that. Now I do another 3D face. I'm going to go from this corner, something along X, down for my Y. And when I do my hatch, I hatch this part. Notice what happened. It stopped where it saw that line in the background. So you're going to hatch it as a 3D face. I'm just showing you real quickly. You want your brick on your faces to line up with each other. Okay, I know it's a lot to absorb, so we're going to stop here. And